Hello and welcome to episode 377 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now it's been a couple of weeks since I've given you all a brand new episode of Mark and Me, and the truth is I just wanted some time off. I had done all the festivals over the summer, I've been releasing 2 or 3 episodes a week at least. I felt a slight burnout and I just wanted to spend some time with my wife, my dogs, and just take some time out. And do you know what? It's done the world of good. In the meantime, I've been recording some more interviews, getting a whole range of guests for you all, and now I'm back and I can't wait to give you so many interviews in the next few weeks, and I really do believe there's some of my best work coming. So on today's episode, to welcome back Mark and Me, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm joined by the incredible drummer, Atom Willard, one of the best drummers out there. You'll know him from bands such as Angels and Airwaves, Against Me, Rocket from the Crypt, Offspring, and now he's touring and part of the absolutely incredible Alkaline Trio. Now, to give you some context to this interview, I drove down to Manchester, was meant to interview the whole band, but when I got there, 2 members of the band weren't very well. There's a horrible bug going around and they didn't want to risk it and have to cancel the show that night, and I fully respect that. But I was so thrilled when Atom said he was still up for doing it. We went to the dressing room of the band, we sat down, and honestly, it's one of the best interviews I've done. I love doing face-to-face interviews. I think the chemistry works better. Zoom is great. It's helped out this podcast no end. But when I get the opportunity to sit down with someone face-to-face, I really feel an instant connection. And you'll hear it today with me and Atom. He's so great. So what I want to do now is to get straight to it. So here's me and Atom talking all things music. Atom, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to be here.
I am really thrilled to have you on the podcast. And what I wanted to do today for the listeners out there is take it right back to the very start.
Oh, boy.
I love
Everybody better sit down.
Yeah, I love it. And we've got the towels to support us. So for the people out there, this is not as rock and roll as you think. We're in a dressing room with towels as back support.
Listen, the towels are black, though. So
I mean, it's metal still.
Yeah, you know.
And what I love to do is go on a trip down memory lane, and it gets nostalgic, but I love to take it to the point of when you were growing up, that first album that maybe you were given or you bought with your pocket money.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I started playing the drums when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
Which you'd think I'd be better by now. But at the end of the day, like that's when it began. And, you know, my folks had the Beatles and like Jim Croce and maybe some Beach Boys records around. So I was listening to the Beatles and stuff, but like the first record that I bought was Kiss, Rock and Roll All Over. Rock and Roll. Yeah, Rock and Roll Over.
All Over.
The one, the round one. And that was the one that my mom let me buy because the Alive 2 record was like way too gnarly looking.
Massively, especially at that age.
I eventually got it. I mean, so what? I was probably 5, you know, when I got that. Yeah, 5 or 6, but I was so into it because of the theatrics and all this stuff. And you know, years later, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, this music sucks. It's so bad. These songs are terrible.
Yeah.
But there was that level of just show and other world thing. It was like larger than life, you know.
It kind of all changed for me when I went to see my first live band. So I'm 42 years old.
Okay.
My parents dropped me off. You probably know Wolverhampton. I'm sure you've played it with previous bands.
Yes.
And I went to see Green Day on their Dookie tour. It was one of my first ever shows. And that was the reason I wanted to be in a band. That's the reason I wanted to be a guitarist. That's the reason I'd stand in front of a mirror wishing I was Billy Joe Armstrong.
Sure, yeah.
And I was blown away. I literally came away thinking, that's all I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, fucking mind blown. I couldn't believe that there was only 3 people on stage at that point because Green Day didn't have the additional guitarist or keyboard player.
Yeah.
It blew my mind, and I wondered if you were lucky enough to have a really good first experience as a gig, or was it something shit that you don't tell people? Or
I mean, honestly, the first time I ever saw people play live music was like weddings and shit.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm already interested in the drums, but I don't necessarily understand how it works. So if I see them on TV, that's one thing, or a movie or some shit. But it was like weddings
Yeah.
You know, or if there's like a fucking weird band in the mall or at Disneyland. Like I stood there and watched the band in Tomorrowland for, you know, an hour. And my parents were like, okay, you want to go on a ride? I'm like, no, I want to watch this. So yeah, like weddings and that kind of thing. My first like legitimate concert was Rush.
Fucking hell, dude.
In San Diego. And my dad took me, and I don't know, I was like 10 or 11 or something. And I was just like such a Rush fan because obviously drums.
One of the best ever.
But, you know, like super nerdy too. But
that's crazy because we're talking about the power of only 3 people on stage for Green Day. You transfer that to Rush.
Yeah.
I saw Rush about 6 years ago. Maybe longer, actually. Time always feels less when you get older. And then someone says, it was 12 years ago. And
you're like, that's impossible.
But Rush were fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they are an insane force of nature, really.
Yeah.
You know, like you say, that those 3 people can generate that much, not only sound, but emotion and energy and to influence and to affect and inspire so many people across the board. I mean, Geddy Lee was like kind of sick. Like he's playing the bass and doing keyboard thing on the ground. They're called Taurus pedals. I don't know.
Yeah. I watch and I can't get my head around.
You know what I'm saying?
Like
all
at once, I'm like, why are you so good at everything?
Crazy multitask style. I mean, his voice is kind of an acquired taste, but also like he's fucking doing it.
So at this
Pretty
point,
awesome.
You're really young, and even though I've interviewed over 350 people, no one has talked to me at the starting point of watching like a wedding band or a band at an amusement park or something like this. It's new to me. So usually it's someone like, my friend was in a battle of the bands, or I went to my college and there was bands playing. But
no, I was so young, man.
Like this is so young.
I was so into it already. You know, like I still have my first drum set. I'm making air quotes for Tracy. But the first drum set was like this set of cans that got progressively smaller, and my mom had like wrapped wallpaper or something around each one to make them a different color and like whatever. She's crafty. So I still have that. Like the tops are totally dented in from me banging on them with whatever the fuck it was. Like,
I love you still got them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't take up that much space.
But it's the fact that my parents throw away everything. My first guitar's now not there. My first little Marshall amp, the little sample ones.
Come on, Mrs. Mark. What are you doing?
I know, like, I want them and I'll never get them back.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a set. I don't know. I'm going to figure out what it was.
It was a £7,000 Gibson. I'm joking.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, he's
Hang
pulling
on.
a fast one here.
Roll the tape back.
But
Yeah,
it's really
man.
young, dude. Like that's
I was,
crazy.
Yeah, I was so into it, I'm still into it. You know what I mean? At that level, like I love playing the drums. It's like it's my favorite thing. It's fantastic. It's truly my first love.
Were your parents, because they saw this kind of obsession and this kind of, you were so transfixed on this drum kit, were they kind of like picking up on it and being like, maybe our son could be a drummer? You know, because
I don't think any
parent.
I don't think any parent would wish that on anyone. Like maybe he could be a drummer. Like, oh God, I think that they were very supportive and encouraging of, you know, whatever me and my sister were into, and you know, tried to support us. We were really fortunate in that way that they were able to do that, and that was their vibe. You know, that they would do that. But like they tried to get me lessons and stuff, and I was like, I want none of that. As soon as like I got into like a learning environment and it felt like any type of work, I was like, nah. And I was just like, and it would put me off it for a little bit, you know, and then I would like come back and they'd be like, all right, you know, you don't have to go to the lessons, just.
Because the odds are against you, aren't they? When you're growing up, if you say to your parents, I want to be a footballer, I want to be a singer of a band or a drummer, they're just going to be like, look, son, you need to get a real job.
Yeah, everybody wants to be those things.
You know, and let fucking wake up, go and get a proper qualification.
Yeah.
And then if you do the band, that's great. But in their head, they're like, you can fall back on that, but you need something.
Honestly, all the way through all my years, like that was, they were still maintaining that like direction. They were like, okay, so you know, you thinking about college? I'm like, I'm barely gonna finish high school. You know, like I was already in Rocket from the Crypt when I was in high school.
That's amazing,
so
man.
I was like, just not looking at doing anything else that made me not be able to do that. You know what I mean? I went on tour the day after I got out of high school, and basically moved out of my parents' house at 17, and that was the whole...
Was there never a plan B in your head? Were you just like, I'm never going to go and work in a 9 till 5. I'm never going to go and work. It's drums or nothing.
I never thought that far ahead. Like it wasn't like, okay, I have to make decisions about longevity and long term and this and that. Where am I going to be when I'm 30? It's like, man, I was not thinking like that. I was thinking like, how am I going to get more sticks? What am I going to do about this broken cymbal? Like just now, whatever's now and what's important and,
But I mean, so young to be playing in Rocket from the Crypt, and were you aware of the fact that you were going to be able to travel the world or see different places? Or
for sure, no. There's nobody thinks that that's what's going to happen.
No.
And that wasn't why we were doing it either. It was just like we were having the most fun, and it was like, this is incredible. I can't believe we get to play to 200 people tonight. You know what I mean? In San Diego, it was like, oh, this is a big gig. Like, and there was 300 people, and then it was 500, and it was just that progression. And so your expectations are like marginally increasing. Yeah. Just small little increments of like, oh, well, maybe we could do this. And you're always striving to do more and well, let's go on tour. Our first tour, 6 weeks long, and there were like 10 or 12 shows or something. Like, it was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
All we did was drive and stay on people's floors and like show up to shows that they're like, who are you? And we're like, we're the Blues Brothers, good old boys band.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, I guess you'll play.
Did you, I always find this fascinating with bands. When I've had bands on here that have been going a long time, stuff like Incubus and bands like that, were you able to ever take a step back during your time in Rocket from the Crypt and see the shows getting bigger and thinking, hey, like, there's more people here tonight. Like, I can actually, like you said, going from 200 to 300. Were you able to see that, or were you too kind of incorporated in? Were you too kind of just caught up in the whirlwind of it all, or were you able to kind of take a step back and say, fuck, man, something's going right because we're selling out a lot more shows and the gig posters, we're getting higher up the bill?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of me missing those moments was me just being young, being 18, 19 years old, and really just focusing on, being excited about playing and other drummers, and you know what I mean, just so immersed in, it sounds so corny, but like immersed in the craft. Like that was my like thing, and like we were like making outfits for ourselves, and it was always about like doing different special 7 inches and this and that, and we practiced constantly. That band, I've never practiced since in any band that practiced like them. Like we would do easily 6 to 7 hours a day, 5-6 days a week.
I have never heard
it
of
was
that.
Insane.
Even these bands that are headlining festivals now are never doing amount of work. That's just unheard of.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's too much, really. But I really cut my teeth in those rooms, like battling against huge guitar amps and huge bass amp and just so much volume. It's like, that's why I play the way I do, is because I've always had to get above, or try to compete with these guys that just turn the knob. It's like, man, that's cheating.
That's fair, man. But were you at this point even slightly recognized by your parents? Were they like, okay, now we don't need you to go and get another job. We're sold. Rocket from the Crypt are doing well. You're doing well.
Even after we signed to Interscope Records, it was like they were kind of like, what? Like, this is weird. What is this life model?
Yeah.
Like nobody understood.
How does it look in 10 years?
Yeah, there's no like, oh, well, what's the, is there benefits? I'm like, what?
Do you get sick pay?
I'm like, yo, like,
car allowance.
I just bought a stereo. Like, this is great. But they were also, when you don't live with your parents, and I, being, I guess, a bit of a punk rocker, it was kind of like, hey, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't need, you, which is nothing, not to disparage their support or their care or love for me or, my respect for them. But it was just like, I'm fucking doing what I want to do. Like, whatever. I'll see you when I come through town.
I think you need that attitude if you're actually going to succeed.
I mean, it was like no safety net sort of motivates you in another way, I think.
I'm only doing this podcast now. There's bits of work I do just to pay the bills, but if I don't, it will just be a bit of a hobby and a bit of something I can easily put down. If I put everything into it and think this is the only thing I'm going to focus on today.
Yeah, I better drive 5.5 hours to go talk to this band that gets sick. And
now I'm going to quit after today, but it was a good ride.
I'm very sorry to be the camel that broke your back.
So obviously in the time we've got, it's impossible to sum up your whole career, but then your time in Offspring.
Because I'm that old.
Hey, we've got back supports. We've got back supports. We can't even pretend, and try and be cool. But
that's true.
Offspring, was that a whole different feel, a whole different vibe, a whole different work rate?
100%.
Yeah.
That was the first time that it was like, oh my gosh, you can actually make more than your rent. You could make money where you actually felt a little bit comfortable and you could actually buy your girlfriend something cool. It wasn't just scrape by. And, I got really lucky and got hooked up with Zildjian Cymbals very early, and they've been very, very generous with me for over 30 years. But everything else, it's like you're buying your gear and I'm breaking things and I'm doing this. So it was always like whatever money was coming in was kind of like just to maintain the tools. And then, okay, you paid rent and then the car runs and then, whatever. But when I got into the Offspring, it was sort of like, oh, you could actually do a little more and, you have a little bit more stuff and it was just more comfortable. And then to play that size of show was a new thing too, really. I mean, Rocket played Reading, but we were probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Yes, there's 70,000 people there, but you don't feel like they're there for you, right?
It's a mix for everyone, isn't it? It's like, oh, who's on tonight as the headliner? We'll check a few bands out before.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they were responsive and it's fun. It's intimidating, but at the same time, when you're headlining that show, it's like, oh, okay. So this is
a beast.
So
yeah,
don't fuck up.
The pressure's on. There are serious amounts of people watching me right now.
And I mean, to be fair, for years I'd never wore contacts when I played, and so it's like I could be anywhere. I don't know. I can't see anything.
That's the secret, I reckon. More people should just wear contacts and not be able to see what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, I could be in the practice space, or there could be 400 people, or I didn't know there was 90,000.
Because it's such a contrast in the fact that Rocket for the Crypt, you were working 5 days a week, 8 hours, working so hard, and only breaking even and having a bit of extra money just to live and get by.
Yeah.
Then you had this contrast of switching where you're doing bigger shows. You said, I think you're making money that you can even afford to buy your girlfriend presents and actually live a little.
Yeah.
Do you think it kind of helped shape you and appreciate everything? Because you seem really humble I've only just met you, but the fact that you put the graft in and the rewards weren't that big at the time with Rocket for the Crypt, you then earned that to then have that chance and the golden ticket to be like, well, actually, we're going to get a lot more money, but I'm still going to have the same kind of work ethic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I appreciate you saying that. I really, I do feel extremely fortunate. I mean, how many people get to A, do what they love to do, and B, have so many different chances to do it. We've all got that friend that's really good at their instrument or at their craft, and they did it, and they were like, oh yeah, I was in a band, and yeah, we broke up, and I don't really play anymore. And it's like, man, you were so good. He's like, oh, thank you, or they, whoever, and you've seen that story so many times, and either that's because they didn't have the opportunity or they didn't push for it. But it's like I've been afforded so many chances to try again, and get to do it again. So I don't think that there's any level that you could get to where you shouldn't be or wouldn't be excited to be there on a pretty deep level. I mean, the alternatives are pretty grim, right? Like there's Definitely. A lot of shitty ways to spend your time to make money.
I'm thinking to myself today, if I'm in your head and I'm doing a band for so long, it breaks up or it stops or there's a change in the lineup, you get a fresh start with Offspring, you then kind of have a certain amount of duration with touring again, and then you get to hit the restart button again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the reason why you've been so successful and you've got such a good kind of career history, because if it had just been Rocket from the Crypt for 30 years, I think maybe it would have got stale. Maybe you would have had all the kind of drama that comes with being in a band for years, where you fall out, or you end up just getting into a mindset where you just go through the motions. Right, let's do another show. Let's
Absolutely.
go on tour.
You definitely become complacent in that environment. And it's like, I've oftentimes looked at people that have been in one band for their whole career, and I'm like, oh, that's such a wild concept. Like, I can't relate to that really, because I have done so many different things, throughout the years, and it does keep you, it forces you to be up on it, and to keep up with, not only with yourself and your ability to sort of adapt to different situations, both musically and socially, because there's always different dynamics in every situation. But it like you say, it keeps it kind of fresh, and it keeps it sort of like, okay, like it's a new
challenge, isn't it? Every time.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, from everything, from like, how is this guy in the morning? Does he like to get talked to in the morning, or does he need space? How much time do these guys like between songs? I mean, it's every aspect of your day is a new thing to get used to.
Dude, it's the same with this. I speak to different people every day from different walks of life. If I was just doing the same guest every week for 5 years,
you'd really get to know them
and be like, this is stale. Like, I'm bored.
So how's that? How's the rash? Still, yeah. He's still got it.
Did it clear up in the end, or did you need a different cream?
Well, we'll check back in next week.
So, as the listeners will know, we're sat backstage in Manchester. Alkaline Trio, genuinely, and I'm not just saying this, one of the best to ever do it. Like,
I would have to agree, and I'm not saying that as a current band member, but as a longtime fan of the band. Holy shit, right?
Like 10 albums blows my mind. And listening, as I always do when I interview someone, I luckily get to choose the guests, so it's not like you've got to talk to this band and you're trying to kind of think, am I going to like it? I listened on the way here today to the brand new album again.
Nice.
And I was just in the zone of like, truly, hand on heart, I don't need to bullshit you. I was like, this is an album. It's not a few singles and filler.
Yeah.
It's a journey. And I get in, and there's a reason why these tracks are in this order. And from start to finish, it tells me stories. And that is a lost art, I think, in music. Because the way now bands, and maybe it's because of the longevity of Alkaline Trio, but a lot of new bands are like, get the stream numbers up, just do 2 or 3 singles, get all the fucking numbers so people are impressed. But you've got like a long, slow burn with Alkaline Trio. And to be on album number 10, and for me, maybe it's just because it's fresh, might be the best ever work as a band, I think, on record.
Yeah.
It's astonishing, man.
It's an incredible collection of songs. And the presentation and everything from the sound of it and the song selection. I mean, the songs that didn't make it on, also incredible.
Teasing us now.
I was incredulous. I was like, you're kidding, that's not going on. What are you talking about? And, Matt was very much like, I really want it to be 10 songs, 10th record, and has such a clear idea of just a big picture view and a very clear directive and goal with things visually, sonically, artistically, everything. And I love watching it and being a part of it. It's fucking fantastic.
Do you want to share the story about how it all came about? Because obviously when you read interviews, so much gets to the kind of forefront and so much gets read, but you never get the full backstory. I was wondering, was there a certain phone call, a meeting, a night out somewhere? But, when did it all actually happen? And they were like, do you want to actually be in this band? Because no one knows that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Matt had called me. We've always kept in touch since I played with Trio in the early 2000s. But and we did stuff together in I guess it was right around 2011, 12 or something. We had a little side project and just always got along. Rode motorcycles together, had similar interests and all these different things. And so when he reached out, he was just like, we had done this Electron thing earlier in the year, and he was kind of like, yeah, you know, this and that and the other, and it was in the back of my mind that maybe that would be a thing someday, but I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't ever, I don't know. You never know what's going to happen with this business, or if business, I don't know. Is it business with this world, with this life? So he did. He called me and he's like, "Hey man, we want you to be in the band." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we've got a very short list of one, and
it's you or no one.
We hope you say yes." Yeah. And yeah, it was just that simple, you know. And I think that they know me enough, and I know them enough that was like, cool. Just very.
We just literally, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. There's no thinking. It's just a straight yes. Yeah,
essentially. Because I didn't have like other things happening immediately. I was supposed to go out with the Bronx again on a tour that would conflict with what the first stuff that they wanted me to do. And it was like, I love those guys and I love that band. I really enjoyed playing in that band, but it was like, it's not my gig. I was filling in, you know, and it was just something to do. So there wasn't a big, like moral debate for me.
Does it feel like just returning back to your family? Does it feel like,
in a way, yeah.
Just like back with the old gang.
Absolutely.
Together.
And, you know, people have grown and evolved. And I mean, both Dan and Matt have continued to progress as songwriters and artists, and, you know, in their lives. You know, Dan's got a daughter who's, you know, she's going to be going to college soon. Like he's seen a lot of life since I've spent a significant amount of time with him. And, you know, obviously Matt's done a lot of stuff too. And we've just all gone through ups and downs and everything, but we're all kind of in the same place in terms of how much we care about what we're doing. And that makes it nice too, because it's like this even playing field in the dressing room. Everybody's getting ready. Everybody's warming up. Everybody's making sure that we're on point to go out and do the thing as best as we can.
Do you believe, I know it's a bit of a heavy question, but do you believe in fate when you think of Angels and Airways, Blink, all the stuff that's gone on, the timing of the bands kind of breaking up or not continuing, and it all leading to the kind of the moments you've lived? So if I told you 5 years ago, oh, you're going to be an Alkaline Trio, you might have been like, no, I'm not. Do you know? But it's just, it's too. Yeah, it feels like it's too convenient, doesn't it? Like it does. It seems like this is meant to be.
Sure, it seems scripted in a way. There's so much. It's a small world.
Yeah.
What we're doing here, you know. I mean, there's not that many bands, and there's not that many people that have been doing it in this way. So it's not that crazy. You know what I mean? Like we're buds, and my playing style fits the music, and I like the music.
But it's the fact that, like you said about the Bronx, and you could have gone on tour with them. If it had been maybe 2 months later, it may have been a different situation where you were like, dude, I can't. I'm touring. You need to give me a year, and then it's not going to happen because they want to do something now. And it just feels like timing was everything for this to happen at this point for you.
Sure. I mean, maybe it's fate. Maybe it's...
Or you've scripted it and it's been a story that no one knew, and you've been like, I mastered all this plan.
Yeah, we're all part of an algorithm. Big simulation. I don't know, man. I mean, I think that we, as humans... I'd like to think you get what you give, you know, and if you're good to people and you work hard and you're honest and you do if you're just a fucking good person, you know, stuff will happen.
Yeah.
That's good. And maybe
just don't be shitty.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dick.
It's not difficult, is it really?
There's not even a lot of words to that little instruction.
No, just don't be a dick.
And there's a lot of really good people that have bad things happen to them too. And that's not, so I'm not to say that it's a foregone conclusion, but it is something that if you can start there, you're oftentimes not surprised when something good happens. It's like you appreciate it, grateful.
You're saying the world's quite small, and I agree. And I think the older I get, I realise that life has so many different roads you can take. And I was wondering with yourself, how your journey's gone so far. Is there any point where you feel like turning round and maybe there's certain things that didn't get the closure you wanted? So say Angels and Airways suddenly said, let's do a reunion, or Rockkick from the Crypt were like, let's just do something and bring back the boys for one more. You know, there's a big thing at the moment where albums are being celebrated, like 20-year anniversary.
Sure.
And I was wondering, do you feel like your journey is always going to be forward, or do you feel like you may go back?
Honestly, man, I don't even view like those kind of dabbles as regression or any kind of like return to anything, especially when you have something like, okay, I am a full-blown member of Alkaline Trio.
Yeah.
This is my thing. This is my main thing. If somebody from my past said, hey, we want to do this, we don't need to whisper reunion tour or show, I'm like, well, let me check my schedule. You know what I mean? That's going to be the precedent. Like, this is more important. If we have anything booked or if we are planning to book something, it's like I can't do it then. So if we are going to do this as the original 4-piece, then we need to just schedule it around each other and make it work. But yeah, I would love to do it. I mean, all that stuff is a brick in the wall. You know what I mean? A important ingredient to what is now.
It's the foundations of why you're here now.
Atom soup.
Yeah.
I need all those ingredients. Ooh, that's gross.
With some breadsticks. But I feel like with the journey you're on and Alkaline Trio, I know you've had your past with them, but now you're here. I wondered what your mentality is when you're playing the songs that weren't with you. Do you try and adapt it to, well, I'm going to play it the way I want to because that's me and I want to play and I want to enjoy the songs as I would play them? Or do you want to respect the original members and the writing and kind of respect the song as they were? Or do you just kind of want to just play how they feel they should be played today?
I mean, the shorter answer is that.
Yeah.
B.
Good.
But I will say that I am really lucky because they have had several drummers.
Yeah.
So a lot of these songs have been played by several
Various
different drummers.
people, yeah.
And inevitably that's going to be a little bit different here, a little bit different there. It's going to evolve over time. And then also the live versions of songs are always in every band a little bit, different or skewed from what's on the record. And so the thing that I try to be most conscious of is what people have come to love on albums. Like, they've listened to the album version of this song 1,000,000 times more than the live version, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They put on that record, and yes, it's from 200
They know
years
how
ago.
it should be for every second of that 4-minute track.
And so, I mean, I really try to keep the integrity of that spirit, right? But to that end, maybe it's just the tempo. Like, hey, don't play this too fast. Don't play this too slow. Like, make sure it feels the same. Am I going to play all the fills exactly the same? For sure, no. For sure, no. Like, some of that stuff that Glenn was doing was just like, oh my God. Like,
yeah.
You are wild. You are a wild man. And I mean, ultimately Derek too. Like, he is incredible and like had such an incredible like ease at the drums. Like, was just effortlessly doing so many things. And I'm like, he's like a finely tuned Japanese motor. Yeah. And I'm like a big dumb, like, caveman.
But also, isn't it important for you to play how you should feel? Because if you're playing something that isn't you and not your style or not your way, I feel like you may feel forced.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not natural.
Like it could definitely be sort of like parroting something, and that doesn't feel organic or natural, and that will come across.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important for me to be me, and to do the things that I feel. And honestly, both Matt and Dan are so they're so good that if I do something slightly different tonight or last night or whatever, like they don't get rattled by it. They're
You're
not
back in the dressing room.
by
They're
it.
like 1 hour, 6 minutes into the gig, you hit the hi-hat differently. We need to have a discussion.
I've been in that position. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's
I
like,
wouldn't want that.
Oh wow. So it's like that. Okay. Note
Jesus,
to self.
man.
Note to self. Don't
Fuck
be
up.
creative.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's
Stay
not
inside
it's
the
not,
robot.
Exactly. Because I never saw it as like fucking up. I was like, oh, I just really felt that there, and like that was, it moved me to make that choice and that decision. And when someone is like, well, that's not correct. It's like, okay, so what are we doing? Like, are we coloring inside the lines, or are we painting? This is art ultimately, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's a, these are the same songs. We're not jamming things out and finding completely different avenues to take, but there is tonight's performance, and I would like it to be unique to tonight in some way. Is that what happens between the songs? Is that the interaction or the thing that differentiates it? Or is it that I broke 5 different things and I was struggling to keep the drum set together, or that, the lights were insanely good, or the fucking backdrop fell on me, or what is it that makes tonight unique? Because when you have it, Jinx, when you have it down to a science where it's just so formulaic and everything, I think it's going to lose its, the integral, like,
It's organic. It's just fucking real.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse, and especially for a fan that can see it so clearly. I think bands forget. It's so transparent when it's just a stage show, going through the motions, playing the song note for note every night. It's great. Bands like Tool are fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. But there's never going to be a bit of a jam or a song that goes on as an interlude, because they're just playing the songs, and it's incredible. But that's not the same band as Alkaline Trio. That's not the same band as Pearl Jam or Foo Fighters. It's
sure.
I love the fact that when Foo Fighters, and it's such a fucking sad story with Taylor Hawkins, but when they actually said, we've got Josh now, they didn't say play the songs like Taylor Hawkins. They just said, you're a fucking incredible drummer, you do it your way. And he's hitting the drums harder, he's more of a fucking punk drummer, but the songs are still Foo Fighters.
Sure.
But it's a different feel, and I feel that you're doing that for Alkaline Trio.
Well, thank you for saying so. Yeah.
But it's true, dude. And I'm really glad you didn't just say, I'll be a session musician and play everything as it should be, and not kind of live and breathe and evolve with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's, there's a lot of guys that make a very good living doing that. And living in Nashville now, I've really gotten to see that element of the music world, where these guys, like, they do 2 to 3 sessions a day where they go in and they basically just play the same stuff and they get it on the first take, but there's no room for creative exploration. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, I mean, I don't think I could, I don't know that I would be able to, like, just listen to or look at a charted song and play it right the first time.
Yeah.
To a point where it's like, yeah, put that on a record, like that's just never how I've been. I've gotten a lot quicker being in that town, because I have done quite a few sessions, but it's like people call me to be me.
That's
so
amazing.
I'm lucky for that.
And you'll never change that. I don't think that's just you.
That's what I would rather have. I would rather not show up and be like, hey, can you play like this today? Hey, we need this kind of a feel. Hey, we want you to be like that guy, or make this song happen with our notes. It's like, well, how about we just like come up with something totally new together now?
I need to come to Nashville, because probably my most listened to band of the last few years is Paramore, because I just think the way they evolve as musicians, people don't give them credit. They just think they're this generated kind of pop band. But
absolutely,
as musicians, and Zach on drums and Taylor's guitar work and Haley's vocals are fucking incredible. And I see them evolve like Radiohead, like Thrice, that never play it safe. And recently, one of my most listened to albums is Casey Musgraves. And I'm like, you're from Nashville. And I'm like getting to this point where I'm like, I need to go to Nashville and just fucking soak up whatever they're doing because it just works.
I mean, honestly, I feel like those are sort of exceptions to what's happening. Not to disparage the city on any level, but it's like, it is really like a fucking machine that just churns out samey garbage. And
I've just been lucky then and picked the two.
I think you have.
Yeah.
But honestly, good on you. Good job. But it's wild, man. Like because I'll get put on sessions with guys that are doing country records all day long, big fucking country records, and they come and they're like, this is so much fun. I don't ever want to do a country session again. I'm like, come on, come to the dark side. We work once every 2 weeks. They're like, oh no, I need more than that.
I just wondered, like, as a human being, do you still get nervous for shows? Do you just take it as it comes, going, right, tonight, Manchester, Alkaline Trio, the guys are cool to let me do my thing and we'll see how it goes? Or do you have that anxiety beforehand and think, fuck, it's another show and I can't ever shift it? I'm always going to be nervous.
There's a happy medium between those two things. I'm definitely to the point where if I am familiar with and know all the material that we're playing, if none of the songs are fresh to me or we've played several times before, that kind of nervousness of performing only comes down to like my physical condition.
Yeah.
And especially since my accident, like I really, that's the only concern that I have. Like, is my body gonna be there? Am I gonna make it through? Is anything gonna, crap out? Basically.
Has there been any warning signs or alarms going off?
Yeah. I mean, I have those nights where it's like, oh shit, my arm is completely numb or my hand totally hurts or, whatever it is. And part of that is just being the age that I am. And then part of it is that I slammed into the ground at
You hide it well, dude. You hide it really well.
Well, I'm trying. I'm working hard to like maintain this level of physical condition to be able to do this at the level that I want. I'm not happy to just sit and hit the notes where they're supposed to be. I want to do it in the way that I really feel and, that is compelling to me. And, that's the thing that I get most nervous about now. I mean, listen, my first show with the band was at Wrigley fucking Field.
That's insane.
So that was like, I was a little bit apprehensive.
That's on my bucket list because I see videos of Pearl Jam there and I'm like, that looks fucking epic.
Yeah. There was a little bit of apprehension there. We had a couple days of practice, together.
Understandable, dude.
Beforehand, it was like, okay, so this is happening. But they're so easy and they're so welcoming and they're so supportive. Like there wasn't any like, don't fuck this up for me, because that was a big show for them. Hometown at Wrigley Field, like
it's insane.
So
not even a warm up at a local secret club.
No,
straight in.
Yeah.
Is there or what does the plan B look like for you? Because from the age of 5, you've been this guy that wants to be a drummer. You've been in some of the best bands to ever be on the planet. You've evolved. You've been in so many different projects and bands. What happens the day when you feel, I just can't fucking do this anymore? Like, I need to put the sticks down. And is there another life out there? Is there a project or another aspect to you? Maybe writing or producing or film directing? Is there something else that will be on the tick list?
Unfortunately, I haven't thought that far ahead.
Well, let's not talk at it now.
I
don't
probably
want to start putting
should.
stuff in your head and be like, oh shit, Mark's made me realize I need a backup plan.
Listen, I think that part of the reason that we get to keep doing things is, like you say, like you're all in.
Yeah.
And I want to be playing the drums until I physically cannot do it anymore. And
so until probably the day you die, you'll just be
whatever.
Let's wheel him out.
Whatever capacity, like I really, it's truly where I'm just so happy, and I just have these moments of like bliss on stage nightly, You know, it's fantastic.
I love that you still get it, because I've seen and I
God.
speak to bands that are just like, it's my job now, and I'm like, oh, that's soul destroying. Like, I don't want to hear that, because in my head you're living the dream every night.
Oh man, I'm telling you, like, there are aspects of touring that are absolutely exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'd fucking love to be home for a minute, you know, and I'd love to see my dogs and my wife right now.
Yeah.
I miss them desperately, but at the same time, like, you have this awareness that, yeah, well, when you're not here, you're there.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, you miss both things in their own way for their own reasons. So, I mean, I am constantly creating music with, you know, friends and with other partners in creative allied way, you know, like, to try to always just be making things, even if it's just to make it. It's not even to necessarily be released, but playing on other people's records is always fun. I love doing that. But something completely outside of music that I'm a welder. My hobby is welding. So I do lots of sort of decorative architectural welding. So, like, really elaborate fences, or my wife does furniture, and so I make shit for her.
This is cool. I didn't know this.
That she will then go on and either upholster or do, you know, add wood to or whatever. So we're always making stuff at home. There's it's a creative household.
Isn't that wholesome though? Isn't that beautiful? Like,
it's corny. I know.
No, it's not, dude. My wife crochets and she spends all day making blankets, and I fucking love it. And we'll order patches and make stuff and choose the color schemes, and it might be like, you're not 85, Mark, but I'm like, no, but it's beautiful. Like, we can sit and watch a film and she's working away, and
it's great.
It's fucking, I love it, man.
No, dude, that's the same vibe at our house. And so there's a constant thing of like, well, what are we doing? What's the next project? Is it a thing for the house? Is it a thing for you to sell? Is it, you know, or what is it? So
it's healthy, man. I think that's the future.
Yeah, I mean, we've been married. It'll be 23 years this year.
Dude, 23, look at my arm.
Yeah. What's that?
The day we got married, the
Nice.
23rd.
I'm 29.
Oh.
And I got 29s all over.
There you go.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a magical day, and it's weird. Like, when I met her, we both were like, my favorite number's 23, and she's like, mine too. And we went to book the wedding. We've been married 2 years from the 23rd this month. And we just come back off holiday because we went to where we got married 2 years after.
Oh, awesome.
And the only day they had on the whole calendar was the 23rd. And I was like, people won't believe it. It sounds cheesy, but I was like, that's fucking fate. That's real. That's meant to happen.
That's fantastic. I love it. Happy anniversary.
23, 29, they're good numbers.
Dude, 29. I have so many 29s. So
while I'm sitting here, I've been looking at your tattoos, and I'm always like, I need to get more. And I'm looking at yours, like, I always get distracted, and I'm like, oh, look at all these little numbers and the.
And everything has a story.
A reason.
You know what I mean? Like, there's always, like, I mean, I got that in Nagoya.
For the listeners out there, this is a tattoo on his elbow.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, every little thing sort of has a little story, or it's a little timestamp.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just something that looks cool, it's like, oh, I got that in this city at this time on this tour with this band. It's like, I don't remember anything else about that tour, but I do remember getting this tattoo.
It's like a little photo album, but it's just over your body.
It is, totally.
What I do on this podcast, and it's my final question for you today, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, and it's not easy.
Awesome.
Every guest that comes on gets the same final question.
Okay.
What happens after I've edited our interview today is there's going to be a song played.
Okay.
And you choose the song. Now, it doesn't need to be Alkaline Trio. It's a song that means something to you. And the reason I ask the question to everybody is it makes every single episode unique. And what I really enjoy is, especially with musicians like yourself, there's probably 10,000 songs in your head, but one will rise to the top. One will come out before any to your heart and soul. And I love the reason why you believe it came out today.
I don't know. It's just this popped into my head. So it's what I'm going to go with. It's a song by Santi Gold. What's the name of it? It's like, I think it's All I Got or All I Want.
Okay.
Yeah. All I got, Santi Gold.
I've never heard this song.
Oh, it's great.
Ooh, harmonies.
It's just a good, feel good.
So why do you think that song suddenly came to you now?
I don't know. It's like a beautiful summer day out there in Manchester. We're talking about how fucking lucky we are in love and life, and it's just like
It's a lot of positivity today.
exactly. And that's kind of where that comes down to. I mean,
What's really good is when I edit the podcast, and I say it's a lot, but it's true. I will then go Santi Gold, play it, listen to it,
yeah.
and be like, what else have they done? And then I go down this whole rabbit hole and spend I was only supposed to edit the episode, and 2 days later I'm like,
Your wife's like, "What are you still
Fuck.
doing?
listen to this song. Like, I
need you to
understand
help-
why he picked it now.
I need you to help me cast off. What are you doing in there? Come on."
Yeah, she's like, I'm crocheting, shut up. But, in my head I'm like, I'm going to discover someone new now. You haven't gone, oh, the Beatles or, Oasis. You've picked something that's new to me.
It just popped. You know what I mean? Like, popped
Yeah.
into my head. So I'm not trying to. You can't be precious with that shit. Like, people are gonna judge me and go, "What the fuck? He's listening to that?" Like, I don't care.
Dude, I've had people
I don't
pick,
care.
I think it was a 19-minute Yoko Ono B-side. And I was like, our interview was half an hour and now you've picked a 20-minute song. People are going to think we've done an hour.
Do you hate yourself? Like, what?
And then I have people that pick their own songs. And I'm like, I understand promotion, but come on, like, let
Sure.
it go just for
Well,
5
whatever.
minutes.
Everybody does their own thing. I did I've always been a fan of Santi Gold ever since she came out. Like, the first time I heard her in the mid 2000s, I was like, "This is cool."
Yeah, it sounds
And
beautiful.
I did a cover. I covered one of her songs, and it's on the YouTubes of me just smashing away because I love playing rock drums over not rock songs.
Yeah.
And sort of reimagining the song's temperature and like the whole thing. So,
I will check that out as well.
yeah, it's fun.
Dude, the circumstances, the listeners won't know, but this has come about today completely organically. It wasn't meant to be like this. The dynamic, I think, was going to be the whole
It was
band.
always meant to be like that.
But it was also meant to always be like this because we've talked about how things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was just about to get back in my car and be like, okay, that was a fucking waste of a day.
Yeah.
But with all sincerity, thank you so much.
Oh.
Because it's been a fucking blast.
So happy to do it.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Happy to talk to somebody that loves what they do and is, jumping in head first, feet first.
Well, you got to, man.
you're
Otherwise,
all
we're
in.
both going to just be bored.
Yeah. Die on the vine. Fuck that.
Thank you so much for your time and have an awesome show tonight. And I know, and I've said it on today's interview, the world is a lot smaller than I realised. Our paths will cross. I hope you come back on the podcast another day and we'll talk about whatever's happened in 5 years' time.
Yeah. Let me know when you're in Nashville.
Mate, I'm doing it. I'm going to come over when Paramore, Casey Musgraves, and you're free, and I'll have the best week ever.
We're going to have a killer coffee date.
It's going to be fucking great. And then you're going to take me and show me the real shit bands and be like, see, this is why I told you it wasn't all.
This is what sucks.
Thank you, dude. So there it is. There's my interview with me and the amazing Atom Willard. What a great guy. We instantly clicked. It felt like I'd known him my whole life. The bands he's been in, what an absolute legend. I was a huge fan of Rocket from the Crypt, an amazing band. Offspring, obviously. Angels and Airways I never really got into, if I'm being completely honest. But Alkaline Trio, what an incredible legacy they have on the scene. And I've seen them play, and Atom is unbelievable with these guys. It's like he's always been in the band. And with his history of being in the band, and now back, my God, I can't wait to see the journey it goes on. And go and listen to Alkaline Trio. If you're some crazy person that's never heard this band and you're just tuning in to Mark and me and you're like, who are this Alkaline Trio guys they're on about? You will have your life changed after this podcast if you go and listen to any of their music. They're just absolutely fucking awesome. And while you're there, go and check out any of Atom's work with any of his previous bands. He's a legend. I'm honoured to have him on. And a massive thank you to Emma from Public City who made this interview happen. You hear her name a lot on Mark and Me because she really is one of the staples to the success of this podcast. And each and every time you hear me say how much I'm in debt with her, how much I am so honoured to work with her. And she's the reason that this podcast is where it is today. So thank you, Emma. Right, before I go, let's give a shout out to the sponsor of the podcast, Richer Sounds. As always, guys, if you're in the market for a new home cinema surround sound system, a record deck, some Sonos, some TVs, Blu-ray players, or whatever you want to buy, hit up richersounds.com or go to any of their stores because they're the best guys in the business out there. Also, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please share it. All the links are on markandme.com to Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Share because it gets that whole new audience. I don't have a marketing team. I don't have a budget to go out there and spend to get these sponsored posts. It's all about word of mouth, and I really do appreciate it if you can take the time after listening to today just to hit that share button on any of your favourite social media platforms. And finally, the podcast cannot run unless I pay the bills to host it, have it on Amazon and Spotify. It costs a lot of money. So if you can sign up on Patreon, and there's a link again on markandme.com, for as little as £2 a month, you're guaranteed at least 2 episodes a week. And that really goes all back into the pot to help Mark and me travel the country, go around and do all these interviews, which means more interviews for you guys at home. As well as that, for signing up, you get a welcome pack, which comes with stickers, a badge, a monthly newsletter, and I keep saying it, but it's back now. There's going to be the Lost Tapes, which is each and every month an exclusive interview just for people that support me on Patreon. No one else out there will get to hear them, only you guys that say thanks and subscribe via Patreon each and every month to Mark and Me. Right, I'm going to go now because I've had a couple of weeks off and now I've got the bug again. I want to edit and record loads more interviews, so I'll be back in a couple of days' time with another Mark and Me. But until then, look after yourself, take care, listen to Alkaline Trio, and I'll speak to you all very soon.